Been knowing you.
Productions exclusive. Brandon B.
What's going on, everybody? This is CaseStudyQB, and we are the political junkies. Now, I'm not starting the show officially, so I'm going to say that again once the show officially starts. But we're doing a pre-show. We're doing something different today. We're doing a pre-show game because instead of doing overtime, I was like, hey, let's just do this at the front of the show, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So I might as well just let everybody know we got our girl, Imani, is on the show.
What's up, everybody? I'm back.
She's back. Much love to you.
You know, today's going to be a good show because we don't have Gabe.
It was his birthday Saturday, right? Wasn't it his birthday? Or was it? Does everybody know?
No, it wasn't. The calendar was wrong by 4 months.
Oh, wow. Okay, I saw that in our chat somewhere. But anyway, all right, so I have an idea for our pre-show. We're going to talk about an article that talks about, let me go, non-Americans are sharing the things they thought were fake about America that turned out to be completely true. And this is from a BuzzFeed article. So the first thing, let me see if I could bring up, I want to show everyone. Boom, transition. Okay, so this is the article from BuzzFeed, and it's by Michelle No. And the first one's kind of whack. It says surfer dudes actually talk like that. So, all right, we'll move on to the next one. But people came here and they were surprised that surfer dudes have that, you know, surfer sound that you see in movies. But this one is interesting. Drinks sizes, whoa. And it says, when my family visited in 2017, we landed in Texas for a stopover. First thing I saw in the shop's part of the terminal was a dude who was drinking from what looked like an actual bucket. Here in New Zealand, our large drinks would be considered an American small or a medium. So Bendo, show that little gallon that you had. Show the people. Now, luckily, it's not Pepsi or water. It's water, it's aqua in there. But yeah, what you guys think about that?
Honestly, like that makes sense to me because I had the opposite thought. Like when I travel overseas, I've had the opposite thought before. Like, wow, these portions are super small. But honestly, it's a lot healthier. Like it's a lot healthier. The cultures overseas are way less concerned about like here is just a massive amount of unhealthy food. Here you go. Like that's really not the thing in a lot of cultures. So
it's value, man. You get value,
but not surprising.
And that's why
it's worth.
And that's why, you know, we have the obesity rates that we have, you know, as people constantly. I think what was it when like Bloomer was mayor in New York that he tried to limit the size of soda, or like they were going to tax something more, and people went ballistic saying, "Oh, that's not right." Like this, I need my large and extra large, and all the sugar and everything that those soda have. So,
hey, man, thanks to the obesity standards in the U.S., I'm able to get my COVID shot early.
Oh my goodness! All right, let's go on to the next one. But I would say if you're drinking gallons of water, that's actually good for you. So, Bendo, keep doing that. Keep doing that. All right, the next one says yellow school buses are actually a thing in America. I honestly thought it was just a cartoon thing, but nope. So I wonder what transportation they have over there then.
Who thought it wasn't a thing?
Yeah.
Do kids just get on adult buses in other countries?
Or they just get in a car or something?
Either white buses or
maybe they walk. You know, that's
what do you call those ones? Like
the cheese bus,
the mini one looking ones. All
right.
The one for the special education students.
No, it's what do you call those? Like, you know, those Ford,
the van,
the van, the 15 seaters. That's
the sprinters.
Yeah, that's the one that they use.
That they probably use. I don't know. But if you're in the audience or if you watch this video later, let us know in the comments below and like and subscribe. Go ahead, Carlito.
Let me brag a little bit about my county, my school county. So since school went virtual, they started. I know a lot of people started doing it eventually, but they started like from the get. They were using the school buses to bring lunch to the students.
Oh, nice.
Because, give the bus drivers still have a job, and then the kids that depend on that school lunch, they get the lunch delivered, to their houses in the same bus route that they usually use. And then more recently, they started using the same buses to give feminine hygiene products to the girls. You just got to ask for like a girl pack or something like that. You don't got to say exactly what you need, and they discreetly give you something. So, shout out to my county in Georgia.
All right.
My county does that too.
So we got 3 minutes before we officially start the show. So I'm just going to try to run through a couple of these real quick. So it says sports bar are actually exactly how they're portrayed on TV.
100%.
Dolly Parton has her own theme park in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Schools have a ton of extracurricular activities and clubs, including basketball, football, swimming, cheerleaders, chess, and more. I was surprised at that one. Like, what do they do in other countries at their school?
They study math and science.
And that's it.
Work.
That's when they work. They study math and science.
Well, depending what school you go to, if you're in a poor area, you don't even have that. So
yeah, Imani, I agree with you. I wonder what country that person was from that they don't have sports bars. I thought Irish.
I thought it was New Zealand.
I feel like bars and clubs overseas are even more lit.
New Zealand's that. Well,
that's a little weird.
New Zealand has rugby, right?
Yeah, they got rugby. They just got bars. You just did forget the sports. They just want to drink.
All right,
it's different.
Are they talking like a Buffalo Wild Wings?
No, they're not talking about Buffalo Wild Wings. All right, number 7, you can buy milk in gallon-sized containers. So here's the story. When I visited America, I went to a supermarket for some breakfast stuff, cereal, and milk, and all they had was milk in gallons. Who could possibly want that much milk? I asked for a smaller carton, and the lady who worked there just laughed at me and asked, "Don't you like milk in England?" So he's from England.
You know what's really upsetting to hear as someone who lives in America? People on TikTok were saying that Americans, generally people who weren't American, that we smell like baby vomit a little bit.
Okay.
Just because of the amount of milk that we eat and consume, just dairy daily, like cheese, milk, everything.
Yeah, that's
and
not
that
good.
makes you smell a little more. And I really hope it's not true, but deep down, I think I believe it a little bit.
Yeah, but we do have smaller sized milk. I don't know what they're talking about.
That's true too.
Well, I think we do, but I think in England and all those countries they use the glass bottle, right?
Or they use
pints.
Well, they have the unpasteurized milk in the paper.
I think
but like
they probably have the milkman still coming into their house and deliver it.
All right, let's go on. You have a whole aisle in your supermarket dedicated to cereal, which is so true. There are. Go ahead.
So the milk in the cereal, that was the whole thing about basically lobbying.
Yeah.
I read a long time ago. It's just the whole thing about part of a balanced breakfast that just lobbying to sell all this stuff. It wasn't really really scientific nutritional study behind it. It was just lobbying to sell stuff.
Capitalism, baby. That's more capitalism for you. I almost missed this one. It said this was number 8. In many U.S. states, some criminals can't vote even while on parole. So that's interesting. In other countries, criminals. Now, remember when Bernie Sanders got a lot of flack for this, where he wanted people in prison to be able to vote? You guys remember that?
Yeah.
In other countries, they actually practice reform.
Yeah, I know, right? They actually practice reform. What a foreign concept.
That was part of my dinner conversation with my youngest daughter today about rehabilitation versus just revenge. And she was basically saying, do people not have common sense? You want people to come out better than they went in.
Exactly.
So she has more common sense than grown adults.
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
Our criminal justice system is far, far behind like comparable countries when it comes to rehabilitation. It's honestly embarrassing. It's gross. Like if you look at the types of programs they have for people who are justice involved overseas, and if you look at places where even their prisons or jails, like you can tell that it's built in order to reform people. And then you look at stuff over here and it's just like it's dirty, it's old, it's like rusted. You can just tell, and it's so bad.
The system
it's by design.
It was designed to keep you there. Like we talked about this. They made a marijuana a felony offense. So you go into jail for a felony, federal offense for 5 years for marijuana, you come out, you pay your dues to society, you can't get a job, you can't rent a house, you can't do anything. So what are you going to do? You're going to go back into it because there's nothing else you could do.
I remember of a Pennsylvania judge that was getting paid to send Black and Latino kids to jail because he was getting paid by the private prisons to keep it filled up.
I do remember that story.
It's basically modern day slavery, paying these people cents the hour constantly in a situation that is self-fulfilling. It's just a self-fulfilling prophecy over and over again. When you don't give these people life skills and they spend 5-10 years out of society, they're in a different world when they come out. I mean, if you weren't here 10 years ago, you'd think phones still had keyboards. Like it's a different world every life cycle, and it's just impossible for them to keep up in the way that they are because no one wants them to. People want their cheap labor over and over again.
So we had more things to cover from that topic from that BuzzFeed, but it's time to start the show. So what's going on, everybody? This is CaseStudyQB, and we are the political junkies. Alan Amberster, my man, is already in here. Junkie gang, that's right. And we have our special guest, Imani Oakley. Much love to you. Go ahead and say hi to the people, Imani.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be back as always. It's so much fun to be on this show every single time.
Thank you.
Whenever you guys have the time or you're not watching this show, please tune into my show, Upfront Now, every other Monday on Eyes on NJ. You can find them on all social media platforms on the handle @Eyes on NJ.
Definitely check out Imani, and she's also part of PDNJ, Progressive Democrats of New Jersey. And I just added, Jason Crushu, Ricky, I think actually just Jason Crushu to our opening page where I'm promoting all of our progressives. So and just for my other political junkies, Jason Crushu has been on the Progressive War Room a couple times. I have another show coming up that I'm going to have him on. And I just love the guy. He's a great progressive. He's running for state senator of New Jersey. So I'm definitely pushing my man, donated already. I'm going to continue donating, and hopefully we can get him into office. So let me go around the horn and say hi to my people. Bendone, what's going on, my man?
Here, so I won't get fined.
Don't get fined.
You kind lost, so I'm kind of sad.
Nah, don't be sad. They always win. They won the last 10 championships or something. I'm just kidding.
Now,
I'm exaggerating, but they won a lot. Felipe, my man, how you doing?
What's up? What's good?
What's going on? Carlito.
Hey, phase up.
Yeah. John.
Just another day in America, right? Where you could buy a gun, register the first date, but you can't vote and register on the first day. Gotta love the state of Georgia.
We gonna fix that. Somehow we gonna fix it. We gonna make it right. They got HR 1 and they have the John Lewis Act coming down the pike. So we'll see what we can do, what the Democrats can do with that. So I'm gonna get the show started with our first meme, or our only meme of the show. If the shooter turns out to be Hispanic, the response is build a wall, Arab, ban Muslims, black people, BLM are terrorists. But if the shooter is white, here's what you get. We need to ask ourselves, how are we as a society failing these poor, troubled young men? What kinds of movies, video games, and music are they making? So you guys know what this is in reference to, right?
Oh, yeah. Who
wants to talk about it? All right.
That's an old one, though.
Yeah. So that was in reference to the police that they caught the guy that was shooting up the Asian spas, and he just seemed to have so much sympathy.
He had a bad day.
I know, right? That's what he said. He had a bad day. You go with murdering people.
Said. That was the cop said.
The cop said that about the
not just any cop, right?
Yeah.
Not just any cop.
The sergeant, I believe he was, right? Like the head cop, man. It's crazy. All right, so
I was reading something, I think, where the actual shooter himself, or I was listening to something where the actual shooter himself said it was like some sort of weird sex addiction or something that made him go on the street, which is it's just getting worse and worse, man.
Yeah.
Worse and worse.
I do not buy it at all. So we're going to talk about the no cancel zone, and I'm going to show it right here. This is our no cancel zone for this show that we're going to go throughout the show. We're going to do different segments, but hopefully, because we missed two discussions last week, that we're doing it today, and hopefully we get to everything. But where we each stand on third parties, like what each of our political junkies, what strategy do they prefer? A third party, progressive third party, or to take over the Dems, like have progressives take over the Dems, or both. So that's number one. Number two is, can progressives win seats where Republicans are retiring and because of Republican infighting? And then the last one is, what is a faux progressive, and how much should we support faux progressives? And so I'm going to play a video for that, so to give exactly what I am talking about on that one. And for the first things first, we're going to show this trivia right here, and I want you guys to shout out who this person is if you can. Carlito, you got it already?
Is that
Georgia? It's Georgia right now, man.
Okay.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is the first.
I thought it was the other one. I thought it was Boebert.
Nah, not that one. So whoever in the chat, if you could shout out who it is, because I know we have a delay, so you guys can answer, and whoever in the chat gets the name first, you get credit for it. All right, so boom. All right. So the next things, what are we gonna do? Let's do another trivia.
Hey, Imani getting a shout out in the chat.
Yeah, the urban
Imani.
progressive.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. All right, so who is this person? Anybody know?
Wait.
John.
Tell me that is.
I'm just throwing out a name. All right, so let's go to it. So this person is Tom Carper of Delaware, and he is
which way? Delaware?
So I think every week for the last 3 shows, we've been featuring those 8 senators who voted against $15 minimum wage to be in the Senate COVID relief bill. So this is I think this is the last person that I wanted to highlight. So everybody in the chat, everybody on the show, remember his face for when he goes up for re-election.
I'd rather not to.
Let's not forget Chris Coon.
Tom Carper, Chris Coon, Joe Manchin, who else? Christian Cinema from Arizona. So all these names we got to remember to shame them and get them out of office, get better people in there. All right. So Carlito, my man, we ready for the Carlitos rapid fire?
Yo, I'm as ready as the Atlanta face is.
All right, let's do it.
Bedon? You like that, Bedon? You like that? You like the face?
Yo, yeah, let people know what you're talking about. So for those who don't know.
Hey, Call of Duty League, Atlanta FaZe is the Atlanta professional team for Call of Duty, and they catching wreck.
Okay, all right. So let's get into it, baby.
All right, first story. The Empire Strikes Back by Ja Legume and Popular Information. So following the riot at the Capitol on January 6th, dozens of major corporations, including Amazon, AT&T, Disney, Microsoft, Walmart, announced they were suspending PAC contributions to the 147 Republican members of Congress who voted to return the results of the presidential election. Could this usher in a new era of responsibility in corporate political giving? Not if the United States Chamber of Commerce has its way. So a memo came out from them, authored by a Republican operative used to work for Rudy Giuliani, saying that the chamber does not believe it's appropriate to stop funding these Republicans just because they attempted to throw out millions of votes and install Trump for a second term. I don't know what you think about that, Imani.
I mean, listen, they try to make themselves be nonpartisan, right? They just according to them, they take a blanket look and then they see who they support. But I feel like if that's true, then you have to at least at a bare minimum have okay, this person supports democracy, right? If you're just if you're ignoring whether this person believes in democracy, supports regular democratic values, they should be out. I mean, that's not a partisan thing, even though now it kind of has become one because the Republican Party has just gone way, way, way off the rails. But that's such a bad argument to say oh, we're nonpartisan. We actually don't look at party. But then don't have at least as a bare minimum standard that you have to respect democracy and democratic values. And as far as the tech companies not giving that money to Republicans, they shouldn't have been giving it to them in the first place. I mean, like, oh, now they don't want to give it to them because all of this stuff around the elections and the Capitol is happening. But why are you giving to members of a party that are hell-bent on destroying marginalized folks, on making the country worse, and overall driving it into the ground? It's something that should have been happening.
Tax cuts. 100%. All right.
Yeah, but so they're doing something that I like to call the Charlie Murphy rule. So it's not, just voting there is not enough. They will consider not donating if they continue to undermine the legitimacy of our elections and institutions. For example, casting a vote is different. Well, they say it. That was from their words. Casting a vote is different than organizing the rally or continuing to push debunk conspiracy theories. So they want to take into consideration future conduct. So what I mean by the Charlie Murphy rule is that they were only going to start giving them money if they're habitual line steppers. So they can't just do it one time. They gotta be hating democracy again and again and again.
Yeah, they have to contribute to a coup again and again and again, and then
they'll change the rules again, and then they'll make it like, oh no, you have to fully say you support it. Like, they'll just change the rules over and over again.
All right. Wow. Second story. Marijuana foes deploy new playbook to thwart state legalization, pen election results by Jeff Smith at Marijuana Business Daily. I did not know this publication even existed, but I'm glad it does. So we know in the previous story, we talked about Republicans trying to overthrow the national election. In this one, we see how they also don't care about democracy when it comes to state elections. So in the 2020 election, there was a 5-state sweep of ballot initiatives supporting various levels of marijuana legislation in Arizona, Mississippi, Montana, New Jersey, and South Dakota. So Republicans now are trying different ways to make sure that these ballot initiatives never happen, even if the voters pass them, from changing the wording to using right-wing judges to allow them to make new laws more restrictive than intended, to delaying implementation for years, to appealing them all the way to the Supreme Court. And not only that, Republicans in other states saw how popular marijuana ballot initiatives are, so they're trying to stop them before they happen. For example, in Idaho, some state lawmakers are even trying to preemptively ban marijuana legalization through an amendment to the state constitution. So they just hate democracy all around.
Oh my God. Okay. See, it's just not even the Republican Party. They call themselves conservative because they believe in small government. If at one point they believed that small government, they currently hold no values. They support whatever the people who give them money support, which can change at a whim depending on who has money and who doesn't have money. It's ridiculous that something that has been around for decades and decades, even though illegal, has a significantly less death fact. No one has died from a weed overdose, I don't think, in history. I think that is a pretty safe statement. And to give people felony charges for things like that, to make people spend their entire lives for carrying an ounce or whatever, half an ounce, whatever they deem the minimum to sell, is ridiculous. And they want to keep, like we were talking about at the beginning, they want to keep dragging people in for their cheap labor and for their bed in a private, like in a private prison. That's why conservatism doesn't mean it. It just means what will make politicians money at this point. It's not small government, because small government would mean not regulating drugs and ruining people's lives for it.
So the urban progressive on the chat pointed out how Biden is actually, he's the Biden administration, he must know about it, are firing staffers for their previous marijuana use, even if it was in states where it was legal at the time.
I want to correct him.
Is that the Biden that's moving left, right?
It's people who lied on their security form, like on their intake security form that they didn't, that then said they did. Those people are getting fired. That's the correction.
That's the left version of Biden.
Okay, well, I'm gonna take Felipe's word, so there was some correction. But, instead of wasting time on all this stuff and money, that we should spend more money on infrastructure so that Case doesn't have his electricity fuses blowing up and messing up the OBS. Let me go to the third story. So the FEMA chief says COVID-19 positivity rate among immigrants or migrants is less than 6%, lower than Texas average, by Nicole Ganga of CBS News. So, that's pretty much it. F that racist Governor Greg Abbott. He kept saying that the immigrants are bringing all the COVID-19 and blah, 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 when in reality they have a lower average of COVID-19 than the own Texas residents.
Has he not seen Florida?
Does he care?
Hold on. I don't think we're first place. Hold on. Hold the phone.
if it's not Florida, it's Georgia. If it's not Georgia, it's Texas. So.
Nah. Georgia is like it's below them as far as being crazy, man. They always we follow. They lead, we follow. Okay.
Florida, Georgia, Texas, they're always competing.
Nah, man. You got to throw in Alabama in there on top.
And nobody really pays attention to Alabama.
That's what they say. I remember when I first moved to Georgia, somebody was telling me jokes, and they were saying like when it comes to like different things, standards of living, education, or whatever, they'll say like, "Man, thank God for Alabama." That means Georgia ain't last.
Oh my goodness! Wow. All right. So I had a little bit of a hiccup. If everyone saw, so I'm not going to go too much into it. Just let me say that, somebody was blow drying her hair and the fuse blew. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But
throw people under the bus.
I'm not going to throw any names under the bus. Okay. So are you done, Carlito? My bad. I had to run and fix that.
We got to be 99 viewers.
Nah, I got two more. We got two more, okay, man. I always give some Georgia love. I want to give Virginia love today for my man John.
Yeah.
So how about some love to Virginia?
Give him some love.
Virginia is for lovers. That's the slogan, right?
It is.
So let's give Virginia some love. So there's this website. It's called DaveLaRock.com. Everybody go to it. It's fire.
There it is.
So
there it is.
So there's some great people created it. It's a very accurate website for him, and I love it. So Dave LaRock is as they describe, a seditionist, racist, and also homophobic representative from Virginia, who, amongst other things, sent a letter to Mike Pence to nullify Virginia's electoral college votes for Joe Biden in the 2020 election. Now, this website also has links to some of his other sycophants, like Devin Nunes, Lauren Boebert, who mentioned earlier, Jim Jordan, and Kevin McCarthy, and a whole bunch of other ones. So when you click on those links, it tells you to things that this horrendous person has tried to do or done. He's just a horrible son of a gun. And this website is amazing that they're able to get his name as a URL, man. I love it.
Wow, that is hilarious. So he's running for governor? Is he running for governor right now on the Republican side? Do you know?
All I know is that he's a representative.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Interesting. Wow, he never thought to get his own domain name. Wow. Okay, interesting.
And they got a bunch of other ones. The Jim Jordan is kind of funny because they got the G instead of the J. Yeah, since he was
he was a superintendent.
Wrestler.
Oh, I see it here.
Coach.
Yeah, Jim Jordan.
He turned an eye when a wrestling coach was. He wasn't a superintendent. He was just in charge of it. A gym coach was reportedly abusing his wrestlers, and
he knew about it.
Just looked the other way.
Yeah, and he knew about it, so he's okay with sexual abuse.
Not only did he know about it, I remember, from what I heard, they were trying to expose it, and he called the person up that was exposing it and was crying to have him not tell or talk about it. So, he's definitely. Go ahead.
Jim Jordan is such a Muppet of a character. He is such a ridiculous human being that he just seems like the villain in a sitcom. It's hard to believe he's real.
All right, the last story, more Virginia love. We talked about the voting rights earlier. Virginia Governor Northam restored voting rights to 69,000 former felons with new policy by Frederica Schouten at CNN. So the Republicans want to eliminate the right to vote for anyone who isn't basically a cisgender white wealthy male. The Virginia Democratic Governor Ralph Northam announced that he's taking executive action to restore voting and other civil rights to former felons as soon as they complete their prison terms. Now, Virginia is one of a handful of states that still require a governor to act to restore voting rights. And this is why the state's General Assembly this year also took the first step toward changing the state's constitution to make the restoration of voting rights automatic as soon as felons complete their prison terms. And the measure now must go to a newly elected state legislature next year and win voter approval in a referendum before it becomes permanent. So go Virginia.
Nice. So
Virginia's turning blue, and that's one of the things. Like I think in the first time in like 17 or 18 years, the state assembly is Democratic, so they taking bold step, and they eliminated a death penalty. They restoring right, so we moving in the right direction. I know they also voted for the minimum wage increase. They're doing it incrementally. It's not right away, but we are definitely as a state moving the right direction. We still got a long way to go, but slowly we're getting there.
Beautiful. What I got to
one
say
thing
about
that I learned.
Go ahead, Caldito.
So Maine and Vermont, those are the two states that actually allow felons to vote even while they're behind bars, which I'm completely for. But one thing that I learned is also that Washington, D.C. also does it too. So that's news to me.
So what I got to say about this is, a lot of times you hear people, and we're about to go into the discussion of third party versus trying to take over the Democratic Party. But from what I remember, that governor, he was the conservative Democrat, like that was running in the primary. There was a progressive that was running and he didn't win. But here we see that there is a difference of having Democrats versus Republicans in office. Like these are big things that are going to help not only, Democrats, because you can make the argument that more Democrats are going to be able to vote, but this helps society, period, for, parole people coming out of prison to be able to vote. And there is a difference, whether you like it or not.
Universal, the urban progressive in the chat said universal voting for all 18 and up, automatic registration. I'm also for that, but even when you go to jail, I think you should still be able to vote because just the fact that you live in that state or the area is used for census purposes, representation, for allotment and federal funds. So you are getting used if you are a cellmate or inmate, you're getting used for money for that state or the region or whatever. So you should be able to have the right to vote as well.
Good point. What they would say against that though, Carlito, because they said this for Bernie Sanders when he said actually he wasn't even advocating for it. They asked him this question and he just out of his principle said I believe and in Vermont we allow our prisoners to vote. And they would say, oh, you want the Boston bomber to vote? That was the opposition of what they were saying, because they would get the furthest, the all the way to the extreme of that discussion, and they would put it out there, and that's how they would fearmonger that topic, unfortunately.
Look, we allowed, science deniers to vote.
Yeah.
It's also that's not the spirit that the law was actually written in. That law about prohibiting people who are considered felons not to vote is a Jim Crow era law. Like it had nothing to do with the like a bomber or anything like that. It was specifically so Black folks would be able to vote. It stems from Jim Crow. Exactly. So even those arguments aren't even based on the actual history of that law, which is specifically to kind of find a sneaky way to block Black people from voting.
Hey, that's why Maine and Vermont, I wasn't surprised when I found out that those states, I don't know they got any Black people up there.
And let's not forget that, 2008, Democrats held all three branches. 2020, they still 2021, they held these three branches, and we're still here.
So
this is state laws, though. This is state laws.
Yeah, but they can still push for it.
So Alan Ambers in the chat said, committing a crime shouldn't remove you, or I guess your ability to make changes on your communities for the rest of time. And I like that comment because, when it comes to lobbyists, corporate lobbyists, they say, well, who's going to know better about tax law than the people that are cheating on taxes all the time, all these corporations? So their input, since they're in those industries, is beneficial. So, well, who's going to know better about, crime than criminals then? So I'll say that.
All right. Let's move on to the next topic, right? So I was going to do trivia, but I want to knock out, and take us to the no cancel zone. And the first topic that we're going to talk about here, where we each stand on third party versus taking over the Democratic Party, or both. So, for example, the Justice Democrats, that's an organization that's supposed to be taking over the Democratic Party with progressives, more left people. That's one example. So let me go around the horn. Bendon, what's your strategy? Or what do you prefer?
Can you break it down to me like I'm in 5th grade?
All right, so I'm gonna go around the horn, and I think by the time we're done, you'll understand what we're talking about. Felipe, you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, go ahead, buddy.
And I firm take, like, I don't believe a third party will ever exist without ranked choice voting, and it will stay, not necessarily exactly the same as it is right now, but it will always be this party versus that party, because they can get even someone remotely acceptable to your views to agree with you, you're going to win. So giving up and going a third party route is giving up like control, just giving the wheel to the other side for about a decade until that party can get on its feet.
So you don't think even third parties should exist, or do you think that they should be allowed to try to come to relevancy?
I think it's a detriment. I mean, they can exist, they can try, but I really don't think any of them will exist in a real firm way with the current system and how it is.
Okay. Go ahead, Carlito.
First, I think I disagree that it cannot happen without ranked choice voting because of my number one issue is money in politics. You get rid of that, and anything could happen. That's the number one thing. But besides that, I think it could also exist in a way like kind of like they have issues, but like the Working Families Party, where you could have a third party that they win local elections, but also just caucus, like Bernie caucus with the Democrats for the big issues, and also push them farther to the left. So I'm in the camp of doing it in both ways, going the third party route, whoever wants to do that, working within, whoever wants to do that, all hands on deck, whatever works, and meet in the middle.
All right, John, my man.
I think for me personally, think like we should definitely try the third party route, because we continue to go and do the exact same thing over and over and over, and nothing seems to work, right? So constantly we sit here and say, well, we don't want to go after the Democrats. The Democrats, the establishment, right? We call them the establishment. They constantly go after the progressive, and we sit here and we're like, well, we don't have a way. We don't have access to the database. We don't have money. There's no really way. They make it impossible for us to win. So it's like, well, everything that we always talk about, right? Even the minimum wage, like we should start at 30 and go with like 15. So we should just go and try something new. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we're constantly doing the exact same thing over. And we're still not moving anywhere. We're still in the same spot that we were 20 years ago.
Our guy, Gabe, he agrees with you. He's in the chat. And he said, Dem party cannot be saved. Let them know, John. he said that before you even responded.
I mean, just to show how wrong Gabe is, we just talked about Virginia. That's a Dem party. So they definitely could do,
Yeah, Virginia literally became a like Dem trifecta state. And then 5 years later, it's just
I mean, it's not, there's still everything could be better. We all have our wish list. We all progressive. We all want the best. And we know the Dem party is not going to give it the best, but we can say that they're completely irredeemable and there's no way to work within the party. They just need to be pushed.
Yeah, but the thing is, we've been doing the same thing over and over, right? I think it's like when they see that, I think it's when they start seeing that third party candidates are winning, these politicians, because we always talk about, right? Politicians, all they care about is winning. So even if they have to go out there and lie and start passing policies that people want, that's what they're going to do, because all they care about is holding down to that seat. So if they see that, a big third party candidates are winning and not winning as Democrat, because what they say to themselves is, oh, we're still winning as Democrat. They're never going to change and they're never going to do anything. And we always going to get blocked. So,
all right, let me go to Imani and then I'll give my opinion of this. Go ahead, Imani.
Yeah, so I'm definitely in the camp of both, but like anything that we try to do, I'm very, very big on strategy and what does that look like and implementation.
Yeah.
I love the left. I love progressives, but I also think that we have to get a little bit better at thinking about implementation, right? We can go to the moon. We can go to the moon. That's great.
Yeah.
But what does that look like? What are the steps to get there? So I think for now, as far as winning campaigns and everything is concerned, I think we'll actually have an easier time taking over the Democratic Party, just because I think a lot of people don't really believe in third parties and they think they're kind of a joke for most, I mean, other than working families, right? Like they have a name brand and they've actually won with candidates. But for the most part, right, folks tend to think about third party as kind of a joke and that their candidates will never win. So I think for now, just so we can kind of keep up with getting policies in that we want, we should definitely be looking to take over the Democratic Party with more left, more progressives. But then, progressing on from that, we should definitely have third parties. Again, other similarly situated countries to ours have that, and it works out for them. They are significantly more progressive in a number of places than we are. So I don't think it can be harmful. I think it can only help. Only question is, what does it look like? What's the strategy to get there? What's implementation look like?
100%.
So let me ask you this real quick then. So
okay, go ahead.
How can the progressive really move anything when the Democrats are doing to them what the Republicans do to the Democrats in the general elections? So, we know that the Democrats are making it impossible for progressive to win. Like, yeah, we getting some raises and some of them winning, but they make it completely impossible for them to win. So they're getting crushed. They're not even getting to the primary.
The small comment that I want to make on that is notice how the Democrat, establishment Democrat numbers, even the past two elections, they're kind of going down, but more progressives are making their way in. If they just play it close to the hand, and then suddenly when they have enough numbers, flip, Democrats will have nothing to do about it at that point. And that's a Dem takeover thing. That's something that can happen within one election cycle if enough progressives are elected. Whereas a third party thing is a big life's project thing. That's something that you will not see suddenly the Green Party is getting 35% of the vote. It's 2016 and 2020 had the most unpopular candidates of all time, and neither third party broke 1 or 2%.
But we have the power now with the squad, and they don't do it. They can't even get together. They can't even get on the same page.
All right,
they have the power
to. Don't do it. That's strong. That's strong to say they don't do anything. I think.
No. I didn't say they do anything. They don't. I said they don't use. They don't use that power. They don't. They don't use that power.
Forward. And I think in general, right, the squad has pushed. Without the squad, I don't think Biden would be doing all of the other things.
No. Right? I didn't say they didn't do anything. I said they don't use that power.
Pushing the party. In more left ways, but I agree. The establishment of the party definitely tries to crush progressives, but I think the issue there is that one, they have a lot of money, right? That's just something that is going to take time to overcome because they tend to drown out progressives with money. It's traditionally very hard for progressives to raise money because they're working class people, and everybody they know is also working class. They don't have lobbyist friends and corporate friends. So that's one issue that just kind of take some time. But I also think messaging on where the Democrats are screwing up is definitely a huge opportunity for progressives to come in. And just pointing out, look at all the things that these establishment Dems are promising you that they don't deliver on. Progressives actually want to deliver on this stuff. So I think those two things create really big avenues. And I think we also have to keep in mind the span of time that we're talking about with really leftist candidates. I mean, I think as far as being solidly left, right? 2016 is kind of the first time we see a candidate like that. And that was Bernie Sanders. And that was only 5 years ago, right? So in the span of history, we've only been pushing these solidly left candidates for about 5 years now. And that's a very, very short span of time, especially when you're talking about politics and government. So we do also just have to give ourselves as a movement a bit more time to really amp up and get the numbers and everything that we need for a full takeover.
Yeah, 100%.
So and also our movement is not even together. Our movement is so split.
Yeah, let me jump in here and give my opinion on this. So I'm also a person that I'm for both strategy because, Richard Wolff said, back in FDR's day, They had strong socialists and strong communists and strong unions who were threatening FDR with starting a third party, and that pushed FDR to the left. And I think having third parties, even if they don't win, but if they become viable, where the Democrats are scared that they could win or could prevent them from winning, they would adapt their policies to try to diffuse those third parties. And then, so I'm definitely for third parties. And then for progressives, Democrats, I want progressives to take over the Democratic Party, because like it was already said, it's so hard to run the third parties and even get on a ballot in certain states and also to raise money. So this is also a strategy. You might like this, Imani. I have a strategy for 2024, right? If we want AOC, I think she's going to be viable. We have Nina Turner, we have Rokon, all the progressives that could possibly run for office for president, right? If we want them to be viable, and this idea comes from the fact that even Obama, I read the book Lucky that talks about how Biden had just all the right things that happened fell in place and he became president. It talks about how Obama had a meeting with rich black people, and he said, rich black owners, and he said, hey, I think we should all vote for Elizabeth Warren or support Elizabeth Warren, even if she raises your taxes a little bit. Right? Because it didn't say it in that paragraph, but I'm sure he was saying, like, because we don't want Bernie. Because Bernie's to the far left, we definitely don't want him. So at the very least, let's have Elizabeth Warren. Where back in 2015, if you told me that Obama would be supporting Elizabeth Warren, I would have said, nah, I doubt that. Because back then she was the big progressive. So my theory is, and of course Carlito will love this because it's with the Overton window, we need to have a person super to the left that's going to make even the establishment say, okay, at least it's not that person. Let's have Nina Turner be the nominee, or let's have AOC be the nominee, right? So who's that person that's super far to the left? I was banging my head trying to think who's somebody that's viable, and I have a person, Suama Sawant from Seattle. She's a socialist. She's a councilwoman from Seattle, and she's building popularity amongst the left. I've seen her on several. I've never seen her on mainstream media, of course, but I've seen her on various channels. Like she's been on Bad Faith podcast. All our favorite lefty media, she's been on there, and she's gaining popularity. I would love, and I don't know if she would do this, if she's willing to do this, but I would love for her to run in the Democratic Party to the left, and I think she would support, and I would give money to her and to Nina Turner, who I would support, but I'll give money to both just so that she's viable and she can say, hey, I raised $1 million in a week or in a month or something like that. So what you guys think about that?
Yo, you just got me going like this. Look at this is me. I look like a bobblehead because I'm just shaking my head. Everything you're saying, I'm just like, yep, baby. Yep. Because you hit a lot of stuff that I wanted to mention. I wanted to mention that socialist representative in Oregon. I think they're socialist mayors. I wanted to mention Overton window, of course, my favorite term. Because even though I don't agree with some of the things that my fellow junkies say, I love for them to say it because it just makes the conversation move to the left. So then the things that we think are kind of common sense become actually the center of the conversation, instead of people always saying, oh, $50 a wage is extreme lefty, when it's like nothing. You can even live on that. So that's something I wanted to mention. I wanted to mention in the 2020 election, the Democrats that run unapologetically progressive in those red states that won versus the wishy-washy Democrat that lost. That's another example of working in the party to win. We also have Nevada, that we just saw how they just took over everything in Nevada. And that's just, that's just straight socialists pretty much taking over Nevada, working slowly from, they just started working with Bernie in 2016 to now taking over, Nevada right now. And they're basically everybody, all the Democrats quit because they had no option. They had no control over there, and, the marijuana laws that got passed that they're trying to take away now. But that's the thing that over time, we just keep hammering it, by going both routes, outside, inside strategy, And the last thing is what John mentioned about unity, man. Every time we have a disagreement, it's like we take one step forward, two steps back, because then we want to tear everybody down instead of just, all right, we disagree on these. Let's keep working on some stuff that we agree on and keep moving forward at least. And that, that's why we like this no cancel zone right now going on. So exactly. no cut zones.
But yeah, listen, the
last point. And then actually, Bendone, we got to go back to you too, right? John, hold on one second, Bendone. Okay. So I think you understand where we're going with this, right? So what's your
a little bit
strategy?
But okay. so what happened to the Green Party? Isn't that the third party?
Nah, they're getting Republicans elected every November.
They are terrible.
They're bad. I think they're not very inclusive. Like they try to run Howie Hawkins. And all the other people in the primaries were like, they just pretty much did what the establishment Democrats did to Bernie in 2015. They did the same thing to all the other people. They just moved out the way, all the other opponents for Howie Hawkins to win. So
wasn't Kanye West independent?
No, that's a whole different party.
Working for Trump. Like he admitted in an interview that he basically was running just to siphon votes away from Biden to help Trump.
So we got a lot of good third party. We got a lot of good chat room discussions, a lot of questions in the chat. So the chat room, I'm going to give you some love after we do the trivia. But John, do you want to make your point?
I just want to make one last comment. I think one way of the left will take over the Democratic Party in a way is if we get our own version of, not like crazy like that stuff, but like our own version of Trump. When Trump went to the Republican Party, they knew that if they screw him, he was going to take his base and go independent. Yeah. So you got to get somebody like, not a Bernie Sanders going to be like, well, Joe is my friend. Joe could beat Trump, and saying that if you don't play nice and you don't really like allow this election to take place fair and square, I'm taking my base as a third party. It doesn't matter. And you threaten them and you take that could be a reason that the left could go into the Democratic Party. If not, if we continue to play continue to play nice and say like, oh, nothing will happen, and yes, this person will be, and this person is my friend, and this person is great, then we're going to be in the same place that we've been for the last 20 years.
Let me tell you what the problem is right now. I just thought about this. Is this whole just thinking about this one person to bring us the presidency. Just don't even think about the presidency. All the examples that I was mentioned were on the state level. Mm-hmm. That's what the Justice Democrats were trying to do, just get progressive candidates in those state levels. Because what's the reason why the election, we keep winning the presidential popular vote and still losing elections all this time? Why is that? Mm-hmm. Because the states control all the gerrymandering pretty much. Yeah. They get control of all these states, making them all red, and it goes all the way from the mayor to the representative, state representatives to the governor. We just got to start just think, not thinking small, but thinking incrementally and gradually. Because even if we're not winning the presidency, if we have control, like the Nevada, the Nevada machine is run by socialists, they're going to control at least who gets to win the Nevada primary somewhat. And that affects the presidential election. So we got to work with, start small and work our way up, because that's the strategy the Republicans have been trying for decades. And that's how come they just basically own every state in the country.
Yeah.
Real quick, I know we're trying to move on, but real quick, I actually think that the secret to us, if we were going to do something in 2024, the secret is to put up a solidly left Black woman. And reason being is you need to snatch some of the older Black voters from the establishment, and a Black woman is going to do that for sure. There's polling that shows that
the chat nominated you.
Hold very, very well.
The Alan Anderson say Beyonce.
Well, the chat nominated.
She'll take the hive.
The chat nominated you.
She's got the comms team. She's got the comms team for sure.
Lord. How about you? Right, how about you? Somebody in the chat. Somebody in this chat say you 2024.
Yeah,
Twitter
said. I'm not old enough for that. I'm not even. I don't want that burden.
You gotta be 35.
I do not want that burden. Oh my God! Running for president, like every aspect of your life is under a microscope.
Maybe 2036, maybe.
Yeah, but so Imani, you open up a new discussion, because now this is what I'm going to say about that. They already got their black. The establishment has their black woman, which is Kamala.
She said the left.
Oh, you said the left. No, but this is what I'm scared of, because you said the left, right? But the establishment black people, they wouldn't care if it's left or if it's an establishment black woman. So let's say you have Nina Turner and then you have Kamala. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's going to be a conflict there. I wonder what's going to happen.
No, but exactly. I think like the game would be to snatch some of their votes, right? Like you're not going to bring all black
not
people.
All. Okay.
You're not.
Okay.
But they have a very, very strong hold on older black folks. So what you have to do is siphon some of that off and then get everybody else who typically comes to the left. And I think doing that, sucking all of that from them will be, eventually good enough to get the solid progressive win as the candidate.
Well, we definitely,
I agree. Like, they do have Kamala and more establishment black women, but I don't think you're going to pull all black folks from that. But I think if you siphon off enough, plus the rest of the left coalition, then it's a good night for them.
But just imagine, from what I was telling earlier, if instead of having Clyburn giving Biden the election, pretty much, we have state legislator, somebody that will not necessarily take him out, because he has a lot of seniority and a lot of history there. So but by the time he retires, a progressive takes over. We have if we would have worked our way backwards and we would have done something like this, imagine if there wasn't a Clyburn to give Biden South Carolina. Bernie probably president right now. So it's working our way up, taking control of the state legislatures, and then the House of Representatives, different districts, things like that, and then we have enough power to at least influence who they choose to be president and get nominated.
Well, one thing we learned from 2020 is that with the way that unfortunately Bernie went down, we have to build coalition. So this is what Imani is talking about. We have to have the progressive solid base, which I think is a good 30% of the Democrats' population or whatever. But then we have to be able to pull from other constituents. So you have the black caucus, right? So like Imani said, if Nina Turner could pull a certain percentage, it doesn't have to be all, but a certain percentage off of the black caucus or the black establishment. Some people call them the normies that's out there that watch CNN and MSNBC. If we could pull a little bit from them, if we could pull a little bit from other coalitions, that's how we can hopefully win. But we spent a lot of time on this topic, so let me move on. And we only have 10 minutes left, man. This show is flying by. So let's go back to trivia. And then after this trivia, we're going to give the chat room some love. Name this congressman under this mask. So I know nobody knows this. I'm gonna keep it moving so that we could keep it going. So this person is Jared Golden of Maine, right? What's the significance of this person? He is the only Democrat that voted against the Senate COVID relief bill when it came back to the House for it to be voted on, right? So the reason he said he did it, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a part of it. So although I support the Senate's effort to reduce the number of wealthier households that will receive stimulus checks, they did not go far enough, and other changes. So like removing the minimum wage increase and providing a lower unemployment benefit. So basically he said he voted against it because it didn't have the $15 minimum wage. But then he also said that they didn't reduce the number of wealthier households that would receive stimulus checks enough. So like he's doing both sides of the coin where, a progressive would say, no, give to everybody, have it be universal. He's saying, no, we should have cut it back to away from the wealthier families. And by the way, I have somebody at my job who's not getting the full check. And I can tell you right now, he's not wealthy. He's probably making a little bit more than the average person, but he's somebody with kids and he's struggling with certain things as well. I mean, he was looking forward to the stimulus check, So, yeah, I just wanted to point him out real quick. And then we all know this person here. Oh, we should by now. We getting him. So Imani, every show, I've always had this guy at the end. And the reason why I want us to remember him, because from the back when we had the $2,000 check the second time under Trump, and it didn't pass under Trump. He was one of the Democrats that voted against it. So I just want us to keep him in mind, All right. So let's go ahead and give the chat room some love. Carlito, Bendon, you want to shout out anybody? I'm going to look also.
Alan coming in hot, right?
Yeah.
Nominated Beyonce.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got Allen, Holly Horn, Sterling W, Urban Progressive,
Paul Patrick. Twitter came out, showed some love to Imani.
Yeah. Let me see. I know some people were asking some questions, so I wanted to go to the questions. I seen Queen had one. Let me see. Queen said all these progressives organizations are showing their ASS, Working Families, Democracy for America, and Our Revolution. So let's talk about that for a quick second. Yeah.
Oh, Nancy Venture was in there too. Give some love, Nancy.
Nancy Venture. Yeah. So in Virginia, we have Carter. That's I think for the most part, everybody here, or let me speak for myself and John, where we like Lee Carter, who's the socialist running for governor. But apparently Our Revolution endorsed somebody else. And then I just saw, I think it was Queen that said Sunrise Movement. Yeah, it was her. Sunrise Movement had just endorsed another corporate candidate in Virginia governor's race. So I'm sure it might have been that same person that Our Revolution endorsed. But what you guys think about that? We have Lee Carter, who's a socialist, but we know he's to the far left, that he's not gonna get everything he wants. He's not king of Virginia. He still has to work with the legislator there, but at least he's gonna push the Overton window. What you guys think about that?
Well, you said the magic word.
Well, I think it would probably depend on their reasoning why they did it. Because here's the thing, right? Like we could always go for the most leftist candidate, right? But I think there are also some other things to weigh, like what's their chance of winning. Also, there's probably some stuff that I know from doing this process, in different hats that I wear and looking at candidates. Like there are other things to also consider. Like, is this candidate the best candidate to speak towards diversity in the area? Does this candidate kind of have some things that haven't gone public yet that if they did go public would probably be a real issue both for the organization as well as the candidate and the movement, right? So I think I would need to hear their explanation as to why they did or didn't endorse somebody. But I do know sometimes considerations like that go into play that aren't made public because it would hurt the movement in some way, but that like are serious considerations that orgs have to think about.
So another example.
Thank you. I like the insight. I feel like it actually adds a lot of depth to like weird decisions that we don't really see past the surface.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's why I love that's what this show is about, having different opinions on and talking about different things. So another example was Gary Chambers, who unfortunately he lost in the primaries. He lost by like 1.6, so I don't know, it probably got updated by now, but he lost from the runoff. He came in third place. He was very, very, very close. And so Democracy for America and Our Revolution endorsed his opponent, Karen Carter, I think her name was. And then the establishment pick, his name was Troy. And so they're in the runoff. It's Troy versus Karen. But a lot of people were upset because Karen, who I actually did a video on, very, very corrupt candidate, unfortunately. I did some research. I even had someone from a local Louisiana for Bernie. Matter of fact, that's how I found out about it. She contacted me through Twitter, and she was upset that Our Revolution didn't endorse Gary, endorsed this other progressive, which is we're going to probably save that topic for next week. But yeah, I looked into her background and she's very corrupt, and it's disappointing to see our leaders, our organizations like Democracy for America and Our Revolution endorsing someone who it said on her website she's for Medicare for all, but because of all these other corruptions. So for example, her sister she's also the Democratic chair for Louisiana, and she was doing favoritism, having family on board, and I can't remember all the other details. There's a lot of stuff that if you guys really want to check it out, look up on CaseStudyQB YouTube, and I did a video on it just a couple weeks ago, or maybe about a month ago now. But so there's a lot of factors that goes into it, there's some people that maybe she had a relations with somebody in Democracy for America or Our Revolution, and maybe that's what helped her get the endorsement. I don't know. Felipe, go ahead, John.
One in Virginia, the Sunrise Movement one. Problem with Virginia is that it's very crowded, and I would definitely probably vote for Lee Carter, but there's also other progressive there, so they may feel like Imani was saying, right, that they endorse Cara Foy, and if she does win, she'll be the first Black woman state governor in the state of Virginia. But she's also progressive. I don't know too much about her, so I don't want to say things that I may be wrong, but I know that she is a progressive and she stands for some progressive things. So that's who they endorse. Maybe it's not, she was saying, maybe it's not the one that we may want that's far, far, far to the left, but that's probably who they found. But I don't think she's established Democrat. It's just one of those crowded field in Virginia, and things like 7 people running for governor, and it's just very hard. And there's like 2 or 3 different progressives. So which one do you pick? And at what point do we say, like, we always talk about this, at what point do we say, like, hey, I don't have a shot, maybe I should drop and endorse this person that may have a shot? And progressive, we align together and then we campaign together to give us a better shot at winning. So, but I think the race is less than a month away, still very crowded. So I don't know who's going to end up winning. I think it's going to be another established Democrat, Terry McClellan. Probably, he says he's coming back, so he may be the one.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to raise a ton of money. He's going to get a lot of endorsements from the establishment. He's going to raise a lot of money.
Which is a wish that those progressives that are running, they will go and start dropping and start endorsing the one progressive that may have a shot with whoever it is. And that's what we always face. We don't know when to get off the race.
Yep. All right. I'm trying to look and see if there's any other questions in the chat room, because we're going to be wrapping it up. We got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to save the other 2 questions for next week. And man, I love the fact that Imani was here to give us some diversity with the thought and with what's going on with these third parties and how endorsements kind of work. Because me personally, as a grassroots, like, I'm furthest away from the insiders of Washington or even the organizations, and I'm like, hey, I want these guys to endorse the best progressive that can win, but also a true progressive. And it's disappointing when you don't see that all the, at times. So let me give another example. You got Kristen Sinema over there in Arizona. She won her Senate seat, right? But it was the Green Party candidate that dropped out, like John was talking about. She dropped out in time and endorsed Kristen Sinema to continue that mantle, because I guess she figured she wasn't going to win. So that 1 or 2% would make a difference. And she won. Kristen Sinema won, but she voted against $15 an hour, right? So that's the kind of conundrum we're in when it comes to these situations.
But that's also why, when folks do these endorsements, it's so important to look at people's record. Like, how long have they been doing things? It's very easy, especially now, right, to come out and just say, like, oh yeah, I'm a progressive, I'm for Green New Deal, I'm for Medicare for all, et cetera, et cetera. The thing that's going to cement and really make it a lot better for folks once they get endorsed and then hopefully win, and better for the movement, is if we check and see, does their background support that? What is their history on progressive issues? What did they do before they decided to run for office? Those things are really critically important, because that's going to predict what they're going to do once they get in that seat. Anybody can have a progressive platform. Anybody can have progressive comms and progressive messaging. Their record is what's going to predict what they actually do when they get in the seat.
Okay.
Yeah, and something from the example you gave, Case. Yeah. It reminds me of Buttigieg and Biden. You gotta, for your endorsement, what are they going to get in return? You know what I mean? You got to have something to give me back in order to, for me to be willing to put my name behind your candidacy. Yeah. And remind me of a question I saw earlier from Paul Patrick. It's like, can the Dems afford to lose because of a third party? You know what? The other thing that we need to really be honest about is that we got to show them that we're willing to make them lose, like show them that they need us. So we want to show them like, yeah, we're going to endorse you, and I can't win, but I'm gonna endorse you, but you got to give me this and this policy, help me out, give and take. If you don't, next time around, I don't believe you, you're going to lose. If I can't beat you, then you're not going to win either. The Republican wins, too bad, so sad.
I want to support that, I really do. But when the other side is blatantly racist, blatantly misogynistic, xenophobic, and the entire laundry list, it makes it really hard to not vote for the person who will at least not say that the shooter, the mass murderer in Georgia was having a bad day.
Yeah, that's not even say like you don't want to put all your eggs in the presidential basket. For somebody like a sheriff, the clout, I mean, it affects you locally, but that's where a little bit, few votes matter the most, and that's in the situation where you can, basically you can afford to make them lose because it's not like an existential threat, such as having, Trump again, where a lot of people are just not going to risk it, but you could risk it for, 1 out of 5 judges, or something like that in your town. So
I got an example.
That's what I mean about working our way up.
Yeah, I can throw in an example, like, because we had the discussion with the Black Panthers and the Fred Hampton. So after Fred Hampton was assassinated, basically, we could pretty much say that it was Hallahan was the local attorney general, that he was the one that orchestrated it. He was a Democrat, and he lost to the Republican because all the black people in that area didn't support him anymore, like, because he was supposed to run for mayor next, and they just stopped supporting him. So that's an example of what Carlito's talking about. Even though this is Chicago and this guy was a Democrat, they rather let a Republican win than the person who pretty much orchestrated and covered up Fred Hampton's death, right? All right, so I want to end with this. Nancy Venture had a spicy take in the chat. She said, Justice Democrats and Bernie Sanders led us into a cul-de-sac and allowed us to get kettled. Third party only. So I want to make sure all the voices, all the diversity voices were represented. And what I would say to Nancy, the Justice Democrats are flawed. Bernie Sanders is definitely flawed. I think they had good intentions, but strategy wise, Bernie did not win. As of right now, Justice Democrats, we're hoping that they continue to grow and they continue to push the party to the left. And if I think that if we want these people to at least help push that Overton window, we got to give them a little bit of leeway. So what I would say is, with nuance, if you supported them before and then you're disappointed, maybe you would have gave AOC, for example, you would have gave her $100 if she would have forced the vote, for example. But because she didn't force the vote, I would say don't stop supporting completely. Maybe give $5, give $10, so that that's a way of, you can still have nuance and still kind of, make sure you give a little bit of support. What do you guys think about that real quick before we end?
I would say,
you know what, go first, Felipe, let's give Imani the mic before we end the show.
I would say, not only maybe, if you're upset, change your donation, but make some nominations, right? Like Justice Democrats, it might be closed at this point. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Mm-hmm. But you can also nominate candidates. Like if you're unhappy with what you've seen so far and somebody in your community that's like a star, then definitely go out and nominate them, right? Like we have to also, we can't just, let one org carry the movement on their back. It's going to take all of us to be able to do that. Exactly. I mean, Bernie Sanders, like, that man has held the line. I was talking about this with a friend the other day. That man has held the line. I don't agree with Bernie on the issue of reparations, right? At all. Like, I 100% believe in reparations. We're different in that respect. But I can't deny that Bernie Sanders has held the leftist line his entire career. You want to talk about a history, a record of being a progressive? That man has a record, right? And you can't just put it all on one person's back. We need to kind of spread it around. So I would say the other thing is, if you have a star that you have in mind, definitely nominate them. And nominate them in time, right? Because if you're nominating them and their election is like a month away, there might not be a lot that can be done with that. But if it's like a year out or whatever, nominate that person. You're like, this person's a star, get in those nominations and let them know that these are the type of progressives that we want to see.
Exactly. Imani, love it. Felipe, I'm gonna give you the floor. Last comment, and then
okay, we can end it. It sounded,
all right.
That was a good.
That's what this show is about.
You don't want to end in a bad note with Felipe.
Exactly.
I know.
That's what this show is about. This is Political Junkies. We all have different opinions, different views. Even in the chat room, Nancy, much love to you. And we want to make sure that we can discuss these things. But at the end of the day, the most important point is, how do we progress the progressive movement? How do we keep pushing that ball down the court, even if we have to inch it down the court? Even if we get, I want $15 an hour, I want $25 an hour. But if we come out with some kind of compromise where it's $11 an hour, at least it's not $7.25. And I would say to all my grassroots supporters, we are updating Fight for 15 and we're making it Fight for 25. That's what I would say if I was in Congress right now. I would vote for the $11 an hour, but I'll say moving forward, all the progressives in 2024, everybody, in 2020, you had Bernie and others talking about $15 an hour, Fight for $15 an hour. Well, in 2024, I'm voting for this bill to give you $11 an hour, but in 2024, all the progressives, we're going Fight for 25. Bam. All right, much love to everybody. We have Paul Patrick, Alan Ambrister, CJ Bendone, who's also there. And let me shout out who else is here. Erica was here. Queen was here. The Urban Progressive, Gabe, my man, we miss you. And all of our other people, Nancy Vancher. So with that said.
Carlito, do you miss Gabe?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
I think he's fun. I think he has good. Has good input.
I miss him because he's always with me, so we always on the same.
I kind of miss Gabe because it was easy. Because if you roasted Gabe, everyone else was okay with it. Like everyone would join in, but it's only with Gabe, I think, that it works.
We make fun of you too.
Yeah, no, I know, but I can't join in on that.
Imani, can you give your shout out to your show? Give us or the lay down on what you up to as we go out.
Yeah. So definitely catch my show every other Monday. We go live at 5 on Eyes on NJ. You can catch Eyes on NJ on IG, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook on their handle at Eyes on NJ. You can also check out their website at eyesonnj.org. Yeah. Other than that, I'm just out here trying to push the progressive movement forward.
Yeah.
Working.
Yeah, man. If we had a Political Junkies chain, how Rockefeller used to give out the chains as they, initiated people, we would give Imani a Political Junkies chain. When we get the Junkie Gang t-shirt, we gotta get one from Imani. So much love to Imani, Bendone, Felipe, Carlito, John. We are the Political Junkies. If you're watching the show, you are a political junkie too. You are on the team. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. Much love to you as we head out. All right. Adios.
Adios.
Oh, man.